So all these different criteria are very a mess for the consumer wanting to travel.
Pandemic fatigue is a fact in Spain, in our country. Spanish citizens wish to leave this nightmare behind and recover all their fundamental rights.
Do something, do something, do something. Some kind of a passport, some kind of a credit, some kind of a title, some kind of a certificate that somehow invites people to regain confidence that they can dare again.
The Stasha is really happy with the fact that the Commission is at least trying to coordinate something. I think we definitely need coordination in the framework of this pandemic.
Once the certificate is effective, there should be no place for additional restrictive measures, because otherwise people would think, what's the point? Then what's the use of it? Why did it take the bother to adopt this piece of legislation through an urgent procedure? You ask for the state of the play. We are negotiating round the clock. The member states are somehow sticking to the principle that they are sovereign to impose additional measures. But then our representation of the European citizens' concern goes, then what's the point? Why did you want it? Why did you want this certificate in the first place if you are to adopt restrictive measures to those ones bearing the certificate? The certificate has to be granted automatically. And of course, consistency with fundamental rights.
It's a time of moving. It's a time to move. And the only way we will restore mobility is if we change the perception of a risk country to a risky person. That is why we advocate so heavily for this digital green pass, as well as for the elimination of other barriers to mobility.
The European citizens are going sick and tired of all this confusion and legal uncertainty. Nobody wants to book an airfare ticket or to book a week of holidays with family if we are risking to be isolated.
European governments, in our opinion, have to ensure easy and free access to testing for all citizens. I would like to insist in free tests, since currently the average cost of PCR in Spain is between 115 and 180 euros. It is totally unaffordable for instance, for a 4-member family.
We really hope from our perspective that we will obtain PCR free tests, and also real coordination, a summer plan. That's also what we've asked, a real summer plan. What is going to happen this summer for consumer? So we are really in favor of this tool, but as you also raised, Alberto, if this tool is only, if member states add additional requirements to this tool and that it only become really an administrative, really burdensome tool for consumers, then I think it's also a real risk for the European Commission to almost be ridiculous. I know that this term is quite strong, but I mean, it's a real challenge now to see that, to show, that this tool is efficient, is useful, and that it's going to facilitate people's life and not make their lives more complicated.
So that landscape that you have just suggested would be the ultimate denial of the European Union. A patchwork, a chaos, a labyrinth in which you're not only certain when crossing borders between member states as to which are the conditions, you're also somehow subject to the measures that have been imposed at the regional level, or regional certificates, or the requirements that are to be imposed by regional authorities in member states. That has to be prevented. And we have a chance we have a chance if we make this piece of legislation a difference, if we make this piece of legislation effective. So if we let this piece of legislation, the certificate, the European COVID certificate, do the trick so that the bearer of that certificate, which is granted automatically, free of charge, is given access to the territory of another member state, and by thus being exempt from additional restrictive measures, that would be a signal that we are trying to somehow be on the helm back again, be on the willing steer back again, instead of indulging into this agglomeration of contradictory measures which would only nurture the negative dynamic that I described as to the action, reaction, retaliation sequence that we have seen so far, which is extremely, I say, extremely risky business for the European process, for the European ideal, for the European experience, and for the European idea.